So welcome to week 6. Thank you for making it. Your intimate small group. That's great. Good to have other people on the mat as well as me. We're going to be on the ground for the whole of the session. So just so you can prepare for that. And there's only really one movement that you'll need the support of the blanket on for knees, particularly if you haven't got carpet, but even with carpet it can be quite helpful. Other than that, I think we'll just get on. Okay, so we're going to actually start on our knees. So have the blanket available, or even use the blanket now. What you will need is you will need quite a bit of space on your mat. So what I'm suggesting is you take your hands to the front of the mat, and that you've got this gradual decline, if you like, from the shoulder to the wrist, rather than the wrists underneath the shoulders. You can still have your fingers slightly separated, which is what I normally suggest. If you tuck your toes under and take your bum back, and it might be you still need to adjust and take the knees even further back. So what we're looking for is hips broadly above knees. So your bum can go a bit further back, but not a long way. So it's basically a puppy version of downward dog, because we're on our knees. You don't need to have the head touching the ground. So just see how that feels for a moment, and then come up. So we come into the shoulders won't get as far as the wrist, but it's that kind of direction, and then take the bum back and come down. If it's not comfortable like that to bring the head down, then what you do instead is you just take your hands to the side rather than taking your bum back. But if you feel comfortable coming down, and what you're looking for here is when you go back, you're really feeling that sort of length and almost a stretch in your arms, armpits, all the way back to your bum. And your bum feels really connected to your legs, your upper legs. So just finding that as you go back, and pause for a moment when you take your bum back. And then come forward again. So also what you hopefully might feel is the arms feeling very kind of connected into the center. And the connection will be more around shoulders to the neck and armpits and down the side body of the rib cage. So just feeling, getting connected early on. And you might also feel the neck, and it might feel a bit restricted. If it feels restricted when you push back, just take the hand slightly wider than the shoulders. That's fine if that helps to give you a little sense of freedom, while still having a sense of the head very much being connected via the neck into the body. Okay, brilliant. So just pause with yourself broadly in neutral. Okay, so if you need support for under your knees, just grab, find that extra support for under your knees. It's up to you. You can manage without, possibly, and then come back into the same position. Okay, so this time, initially with the knees hip distance apart, take the feet off the ground, so heels coming closer to bum. So there will be more weight going through into the knees already, and then just windscreen wipe the feet side to side, so you get a bit more movement through the lower back into the bum, side, kind of the side of the leg into the side, the glutes at the side, and you can feel that kind of almost swimming sensation of the movement as if you were a fish. Going back to our fish movement, and just see how that feels. So again, it's not so good on the knees, even with support it can be a bit nasty. So let's just pause and get the toes back down to the ground, and just put the knees off the ground for a moment so you get a little bit more core support here. Bring the knees back down, and then bring the knees close together if you can. So we're going to do the same. We're going to pick the heels off the ground, and we're going to do the same movement. So it's more limited if you keep, the movement will be slightly more limited, but slightly possibly better for the lower back, particularly if that's a vulnerable area. So kind of noting how that is for you compared to the previous one. So we're not going to do it too long, so we're going to take the skin off our knees. Okay, so feet back down. You may move down the mat or move down your blanket. And again, just take the knees off the floor for a moment to hover. And then bring the knees back down. Get your hands towards your knees. Take your knees off the support if you've got it and just put that to one side. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to come down onto our front. Now, for this, over the next few minutes, we will ideally need space to take the arms out to the side and also to take the arms forward. So just see, and if you need to just kind of renegotiate your space between doing those movements, that's fine. So basically we're on our elbows. Now you can, I quite like more recently having the arms sort of crossed like this. See how that feels. What tends to happen is it means your elbows will be slightly wider than your shoulders. If it doesn't feel good, then listen to that. So some of the things we're going to do now will, you will need to pay a lot of attention to your lower back people, if you have vulnerability there. So just see how this goes. So what we'll start with first is pushing down a little bit through the elbows and then slightly slacking off. So you get this sense of greater lift through the chest and then a slight kind of return of the belly to the ground. So it's a really subtle movement. Probably can't tell I'm doing anything. I really am. So I'm pressing down through my elbows and get a little bit of a lift and then I'm softening. So again, see where that kind of, what that activates, how that feels in the upper back. Almost maybe you to the neck. You kind of keep the neck long if you can, but there's just a subtle extra effort and then a relaxation of that effort. The belly will come off the ground maybe, and then the belly will broadly sink back to the ground. Okay, so you're looking ideally to have your kneecaps on the ground rather than rolling out onto your feet or in on your feet, whichever is kind of your thing. Okay, and then see if you can keep a little bit of support. So you don't need to be full pushing through the arms, but you've got enough support, back of the neck long, remember. Just bring the belly in a little bit here, and any core support you can conjure will be useful, as we just tap the toes. Yeah, so I'm tapping the toes, but I've still got my knees down initially. And this might be enough for people where backs are vulnerable. And just notice what's happening. So for me, what I can feel is a little bit more going on in the glutes. It will also be going on in the back of the hamstrings to some extent. But ideally, you're looking for a little bit of work going on in the glutes without it feeling like it's crunching in your lower back. Okay. And then pause and relax. Whatever can be relaxed here. Not easy. So the second movement, as I say, is a little stronger for the lower back, so you may choose not to do it. So bringing the belly in, again, and kind of feeling that kind of core support around the side and the lower back, hopefully. And switch the legs on, so you might not know what that means. So for me, if I push through my thighs, I feel like everything's waking up a little bit. If you keep that and then you extend the whole of the leg off the floor slightly. So you're taking your thigh off the floor. It's only a short distance, but it demands quite a lot from us. Don't take it very high, else it'll get into your lower back. So you're trying to find enough support by pushing down through the arms, holding the belly a little bit, and a small lift. Okay, that's plenty. Well done. Okay, so we're going to go from here into locust position. So you can let the chest come down lower, at least for the moment. Have the back of the neck long. Initially, you can have your hands on the mat by the sides of your shoulders. And then you'll remember this probably. We take the arms by our sides, so palms face each other. We lift up a little bit through the chest, feeling a sense of the back of the neck long. So really feel that the head and the neck connected and the neck connected into the support of the torso. You'll feel quite strong already, probably in the shoulders, upper back, as the chest rises only a short distance from the ground. You can go back if you want to the tapping with the knees down. Yeah, so we're doing a little bit of a swim here. And again, most likely you'll be getting core support from doing this, but if you feel like you need to work on that by actually being more active with the belly into the spine, then give that a go. Well done. And just bring the hands back to the side of the chest for a minute. Bring the head down to relax, if you can relax here. And breathe a little bit more deeply and let the belly just expand for a moment. And if you like kind of rolling from one hip to the other hip, then do that. It doesn't suit everybody, but you could try that if that works. If you're still okay to stay down, please do. But if you need to come up and go into child's pose for a moment, also kind of get into that as an alternative to release the lower back. So we're doing one more thing down here. Okay. So I know it's hard to see, but what I'm doing now is I'm extending my arms forward. So there's a little bit of, I'm not overstretching, but there is a little bit of sense of reach. The forehead comes down this time, forehead is down, and I'm alternating between arm up and up alternative leg. It's almost like I'm swimming, yeah? So one leg, one arm, one leg, one arm, opposites generally. So I have my right arm up and my left leg. Again, you might get a little bit of the knee thigh coming into play, but you don't need to. You can keep the knees down if that kind of makes sense and works for you. Okay, and pause. So a lot of connections will be happening there, quite strong. Bringing the hands back to the side of the body. We need to get out of this for at least for a moment. So pressing down with the arms by the shoulders, by the rib cage, and just coming up for a mini break. We'll go down once more. Okay, so just see how you feel now you're back into all fours. If you are comfortable with child's pose, then I suggest taking the knees wide, big toes together, and sitting back. If that's not your thing, just gently flip yourself onto your back and bring your knees into your chest. You can have the arms extended and the head off the ground, that's fine. You can have kind of fists on top of each other and rest the head there, if that feels good. So a couple of options there, but you're just releasing your lower back with the knees wide is my suggestion. If that doesn't feel good for the back, then bring the knees closer together. And breathe. So you can push with your hands a little bit if you want to, you don't have to get a sense of the bum going back, if it will. It doesn't work for everybody. As I said, you could just go onto your back. Okay, and then come back up onto all fours, and just for a few rounds, just do a really gentle cat-cow movement. So we're not looking to extend very far, but we're just looking to loosen around the spine and find a soft movement if we can. So a lot of what we've been doing over this series is both strengthening and making those connections, but also trying to unlock areas of the body that just kind of restrict our movement. So we're moving into that a little bit more next. So we're going to do one more on the belly if you can cope with it. So finding your way back down, you want your hands out to the side with your fingertips touching the ground, head on the ground or head slightly lifted, whichever feels more comfortable for the neck. And then we're taking one foot over the other, yeah, and tapping. So there's a bit of a theme with this, tapping over again and tapping. So again, if it doesn't go for the arms or the neck, but it just doesn't feel the right thing to do, then just come out of this. So you're largely keeping the leg straight initially as you do the tapping. And then what you're going to do is to change into bent knee and tap. So what happens when you have the bent knee is you get a lot further over, potentially, with the hip, which might be nicer for some of you that are particularly flexible in that area. Might feel more natural to have more of a a roll. So we're doing a bit of unwinding here. So one more each side. And then back to your centre. Hands again, really by the side of the rib cages, usually more comfortable. Push your way up. Well done. Okay, so I'm going to come to the front of the mat, and that's will work, I feel, for us here. So this time we have just got the shoulders above the wrists. We're not doing anything fancy here, and knees initially below the hips. See how connected you feel and strong you feel through the arms and the shoulders, and how you feel connected with the legs into the belly and the lower back. So hopefully there's some kind of connection there. You might feel the neck into the body, but that's more complicated to get a sense of upper back strength around the neck. Okay, so from here, we're extending one foot back as if we're going into plank, and then we're rocking forward and back on that one leg. Yeah, so heel goes back, and we'll just rock forward and back, and we find our own soft rock. Hopefully the knee will be fine. Okay, and then with the same leg, we're doing this tapping again. So we take it over one side and bring it the other side. So it goes slightly beyond the mat distance. Basically, whatever feels right, to be honest. So tap side to side. So we're doing a little bit of this here as we did rolling. Okay, and then back into neutral, which means back onto all fours. Second leg, take that foot back, heel lengthening back, and a little bit of rocking forward and back to release maybe a little bit of tension in that leg. But also feeling again, the leg extends into the belly. It's not going to be doing much because it's a much softer movement, but really feeling the length of the leg as if it reaches right into the center of the body, the torso. Okay, and again, doing the tapping, one side, to the side, one side, other side. So again, if that's not good for the back, or particularly if it's kind of like the sacrum area that feels unstable, either do really small movements or miss that out and just do what we were doing before. Okay, brilliant. And then coming back to all fours for a moment. And we're going to come on to our side. So I've got support of elbow below shoulder. I'm doing my best to get heels, certainly heels, hips and shoulders in line. Knees might be, might not. Just stacked here. And again, it's this tapping thing. So just tap forward and slightly behind you with a bent knee. Forward can be a straight leg, behind, bent knee and slight tap. Forward, straight leg, behind you with a bent knee. So it's just too strong on the lower back. So the core and the center isn't really moving very much. There'll be a lengthening through the front of the quads and into the hip flex as you take the leg back. And there'll be more strength as you take the leg forward. Okay, and then stack them again, legs stacked. If you can cope, just raise yourself up a little bit just to release tension in the shoulders. What we tend to do is collapse there. And then we're just raising the leg and bringing it back down. So we'll feel what's going on in the leg through different movements, obviously. In this one, we're getting more to adductors and abductors at the side of the thigh, inner thigh and outer thigh. And again, just seeing how this feels in terms of its connection into the pelvis and the hips. If it's too strong, just do a lower movement. One more here. Great. And then I'm going to turn around just so it doesn't look weird. And find my position for my second side. So I'm trying to get my ankle bone, my hip bone, and my shoulder broadly in line. Just try my best. and my shoulder, my elbow broadly below the shoulder. And then we do this tapping forward, broadly with a straight leg, bent leg behind us, straight leg forward, bent leg behind us. So try to remain broadly stable in your upper body while you've got flexibility from your hip, maybe in the lower body. The core is sort of doing gentle support. You don't need to particularly think about it. Hopefully it's just doing its own thing. Okay, and then re-establish your leg on leg. Might need to push down again. If shoulder's uncomfortable, give it a gentle wriggle. And then just extend that leg and see how that feels. Inner thigh, outer thigh. And how that connects into the broader area around the pelvis and into the waist in that movement. So this +1. And relax. So we're just going to release onto our back just to get a little bit of sort of rest before we come on to into a more sitting position. So just lie down for a moment. Temptation is to stay, but we will be up in a moment. So just with the feet slightly apart and the arms away from the body. Just see how you've landed. So we've done quite a lot of strength. It's fairly subtle. That's what I call it anyway. But you'll hopefully feel, you know, the whole of your rib cage area all the way around, feeling reasonably strong and stable. You'll feel your arms because you've just been leaning on them. And you might feel your arms very much kind of into the support of the back, maybe into the support of the front of the torso, the chest. Your legs, hopefully, you will also feel really connected into the glutes, into the hips, hip flexors, and into the lower part of the body. So partly, just talk to you a moment while we're resting, partly why we kind of try and really establish both that connection and also get the core support is so that when we run, we kind of have the legs and the arms working in unison. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we're going to want to work more with arms, sometimes we're going to work a little bit more with legs, sometimes working harder with both, but really finding that connection will give you a lot of support potentially, and knowing that something's happening with your glutes, maybe there is something happening with your core, that activation will give you a little bit more endurance. Okay, chat over with. So bend the knees and feet on the ground, and then just roll to one side. And we're going to be sitting. Hello. So we're sitting, and we've got our feet wide. Yeah, so it's as wide as the mat if you've got the mat available, kind of for checking the distance. And my hands are just behind me. And we're doing what we've been doing. We're getting windscreen wipers to work with loosening the hips a little bit more. And we do end up walking across our room, leaving our arms and our bottom getting further and further space between. Okay, we've done this before. So if as you take the knees over to the left, you bring your right arm with you. So it's more like you're landing and softening. And then you bring that arm back with you. And again, take the opposite arm to the ground. You almost push down a little bit, as if you're doing like a mini, just for a second, almost a mini press up, softest press up you can think of. So we're unwinding this time, but with the whole body. So these twisting movements can be really kind of positive for the body to do that we don't do in normal life. It's a way of unraveling. Okay, so slight addition. When you go over next time, take the bum off the ground and do a little bit of a press up. Yeah, so that becomes a little bit more, a little stronger. Arms over and bum off the ground. Getting closer to you, aren't I? Moving across the ground, so a little bit more going on in the hip. If you don't like it, you just do the previous movement. It's a little bit gentler. Okay, and I think we're kind of equal on both sides, which is lovely. So, okay, I'm not going to do that one. Okay, yeah. So we're just going to sit with our legs crossed. So if you've got the blanket and you prefer that under your bum, then please take that opportunity. And see how sitting is. So I know for some of you, probably, yeah, actually, probably all of you in this smaller group are probably quite comfortable with the knees out to the side. So what we're looking for from the movements we've done is to feel like we've got core support without really trying particularly hard, that we've got a little bit of an uplift through the whole of the spine, and we've got the sitting bones heading towards the ground. So for me, this feels quite reasonably comfortable. It's not a comfortable position for me without doing some of the unwinding that we've done. So we're going to do similar, just careful with knees here. So we're going to take the hands to one side and kind of just rock to the side. So both hands go, we're rocking to the side. And just so you basically you're lifting one sitting bone in one foot as the knee goes up, just from side to side. Now you can take those arms a little bit further, a little bit like we did before, and that's stronger on the knees. So we're kind of coming down a little bit with the chest, doing a baby press up as we come to the side. But again, if you don't, if the body doesn't suit, i.e. the knee, then don't do that second movement, just keep to the original. So we're going to finish just in the next minute or two on our back again, with the knees bent. We don't need any space behind us. So just coming back down, the things you know, so you don't really need to look. So you're going to have your feet on the floor, knees bent, initially arms by the side of your body. And you choose the distance between your heels and your bum. We're not doing bridge, so you don't need to have your heels close in. See how what's going on with the back, i.e. the lower back, how much of a gap you've got between the floor and your spine, and how that area feels. So we're looking for both tone and a robustness around the lower back. It doesn't feel that we overworked it too much. So just listening in there. Feel the weight going through your pelvis. So sometimes we can almost give weight by creating a little bit more of an arch, perhaps, than comes initially naturally. So we feel the pelvis going down. But we need to keep the back of the rib cage on the ground. So if all that happens is the back of the rib cage comes off, come back and get the lower rib cage down. If you're comfortable to move the head from side to side, it's just a rock across the back of the skull. Yeah, so don't think about any big movements. Think much more about a rock. And as you do that, feel the front of the neck move. And if you don't like it, please don't do it. If it feels like it's uncomfortable or straining at all, you need to have your chin just slightly tucked in. Really slightly tucked in. Okay, so basically, so your chin isn't sticking too high towards the sky. Okay, well done. And you're just loosening, and you're also feeling what goes on with the neck and the connection with the back and the chest. And then pause that. Rock the knees side to side with the feet on the floor. So it's a gentle side to side. The legs don't need to go to the ground. It's just a kind of momentum rock across the pelvis, across the back of the sacrum area, upper butt. Okay, we'll just join the arms in for the final bit. So arms reach up, arms go one way, legs go the other way. It's just want it to be soft. Yeah, so we don't need to really reach strongly. We'll feel the back connected to the shoulders. We'll feel the knees connected to the butt. And we'll feel a maneuver in the center that just reminds us where our center is as we unravel for a couple more goes. Yay. And then arms can rest And you can just roll over to your side. Gentle with the head. Yay, we're done. A couple of minutes over. Sorry. So weirdly enough, we're back next week. How's that going to happen? So no gap, straight in, and we've got another 6 weeks, because after that it just goes really silly because we have bank holidays and I'm away 1 week extra to that. So after that it gets a bit weird. But we've got 6 weeks through. We're going to do something around the deep inner core, and I'll explain all that as we go on. Right, have fun. Thank you for joining me. That would have been